So, full disclosure, I forgot these things even existed. This was until I was forced to buy an interface because I forgot my power supply for my Arturia when I went to Toronto for an extended stay. I ended up at the music store and I saw this puppy in the window and I just had to have it. So then, what was my experience leaning on this as my go-to interface for a full month, with a ton of work, I might add. And of course, should you buy it? So, let's start with the build quality. Now, it shouldn't be much of a secret that I haven't always been the biggest fan of Presonus gear over the years, and that mostly stems from my experience with the build on the AR8 from way back. The power supply blew up at a horrible moment for me, and since I've heard from a lot of people that they've had a similar experience. Now, this should be a different experience as this is a hub-powered interface, but honestly, once bitten and all that, right? Now, recently my dealings with Presonus weren't as horrible, so there's that. As for this little beast, it feels like an all-aluminum chassis and the top is a bit of a plastic smudge maker. The buttons and the knob feel great and the XLR and quarter-inch jacks feel fantastic as well. All in all, it's actually a really decent build and kind of expected at this price point, no? So let's do a walk around and we'll start at the back. 2 combo jacks, you got your main outs as well as MIDI in and outs. Then you have USB for hub power, and when you're not getting enough juice from the hub, you can power it separately with the aux input. And the biggest bonus on here is the power button. This is going to make a bunch of people smile, especially if you like turning it off once in a while. On top, you've got the 48-volt switch, an auto setup switch, which is cool if you've no idea what you're doing or if you're just lazy. You also have a mute switch for the outs. We're going to swing back around to that mute switch in just a bit. You have channel selectors to set up your channels separately, and the single knob for all the changes as well. Then you have a main button and a headphone button so you can toggle between them to set your levels. Then on the front of it, you have a headphone jack and a guitar input. Now, as for that input, apparently this was designed in conjunction with Fender. Not exactly sure what they had to do with it, and Presonus isn't offering much info up on what that all means, but I guess it looks good on paper, right? All in all, though, it is a pass for build quality. As for the specs, we're really only going to hit on the big stuff here. It's 20 Hz to 20 kHz, it's 24-bit, and up to 192 kHz, which is impressive. 75 dB of gain and an EIN of neg 129 dB UA weighted. Quite literally, not a single shortcoming here. So then what was my experience with this thing over the course of a month? Lucky enough, I got the full experience with it, as I literally had no other options and I had a ton of work in front of me. Good or bad, I was stuck with this thing for the month. And I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised with the exception of a few things. Now, I brought my DT770s with me, which are 250 ohm, and this thing had no issue driving them, which was my biggest concern. Remember, I was expecting to be using my AudioFuse Studio, so I didn't think the 250s were going to be an issue. Now, the setup was a breeze, and I really had no issues over the month with it. I really like the color-changing lights to indicate whether I was controlling my headphone volume or main volume. The meters, they're not overly amazing, but honestly, some of the better meters I've seen on this kind and class of interface. The footprint was also nice, as I wanted something small and not as imposing or more imposing than the AudioFuse. I even got a chance to play it with the DI, and I mean, my Paul Reed Smith didn't sound like a Fender, but it was one of the better DIs that I've used on a small interface like this, which is very cool. For the most part, I enjoyed most of my experience with it. So now we're finding out whether or not you can actually power an SM7B with this, and we have the gain sitting a little bit close to about the 3 o'clock mark on the dial here. And I'm getting peaks at about neg 18, actually between neg 18 and neg 15. So this is plenty gain for an SM7B, unless you're live streaming with it, which it's probably going to be a little bit noisy for you. So yes, you can actually use an SM7B with this and get a decent output with it. Okay, so let's check out the noise profile of the Quantum ES2 with an SM7B. We're just going to crank up the gain and we're going to see how much noise gets introduced into the signal. So let's do that. Neg 129 dBu, huh? Let's get a little bit of clarity on what an EIN of neg 129 sounds like. I understand the Presonus may just have a different profile of the noise, but there is still a level of noise that is expected at neg 129 dBu A-weighted. So I've got my Arturia Fuse Studio, which does have an EIN of neg 129 dBu A-weighted. So let's crank it up and see what this sounds like. Now we're going to compare that to the Presonus Quantum ES2. Let's go back and forth between those sound profiles. In case you're wondering, yes, I did go watch Julian's video on the Quantum ES2, and he had a very different noise profile in his video. Now, I can't 100% hold the noise profile against the Quantum ES2. However, it is a thing that is happening with it. But I can hold the quality control against it. And with my history that I've mentioned with Presonus products and their quality control, it's going to have a heavy hand in my final result from this video. So what didn't I like? Okay, so nothing's perfect. I get that. But one thing this will never escape from is universal control. I've never liked the Presonus drivers, and this really doesn't change with this thing. It's an okay software that comes with it, I guess. But I mean, it's still universal control. Next, there is no headphone mute. I think this is something they can change in an update. There's a main mute here. You can configure it to be a dim button for the mains, but there's no way to mute your headphones, which is kind of annoying. I would like to see that be updated. Next is that noise level that I'm getting on the preamps. Now, this thing is advertised at neg 129 dBu A-weighted. I have no issues using a condenser, but that SM7B made some noise. Now, I have quadruple checked my setup and I've found no issues with it. And lastly, I think the price on this it's a bit much. $259 for the 2-channel version and $377 for the 4-channel. Comparing that to its best competition being the Scarlett series, this kind of falls flat, which does have a massive impact on the next chapter. So should you buy the Presonus Quantum ES2? I mean, if you can get a demo unit at a discount like I did, you might not be disappointed. But when you can get the 4th gen Scarlett series for cheaper, and I mean a lot cheaper, I can't say this is a slam dunk for you in any way. Combine that with my past with Presonus, and that recommendation really doesn't come any easier. So I'm going to leave this one up to you. If you're strapped for cash, you might want to just buy into the Scarlett series. But if you want to give it a try and you love all the pretty lights and you're faced with a pretty noisy preamp, I can say, however, do not buy this for the ridiculous Fender DI inputs. I'm pretty sure that's all marketing. So what do you think about this thing? Is that the reason that I completely forgot it exists, is because it sucks? What do you think? Let me know down below. Cheers, guys, and thanks for watching.